Hi everybody, we went over the configuration of Windows MAM a couple of videos ago. Windows MAM is a great solution for personal devices that are unmanaged. It provides a way to keep our company data coming from Office 365 apps from remaining on a device, a Windows device in this case. Then we also went over the older method for doing a similar thing, which is called app enforced restrictions, which kind of was more of a read-only, less configurable version of Windows MAM. But the app enforced restrictions works on multiple platforms. It can work for both Windows, Macintosh, other platforms. I'm mainly concerned with Windows and Macintosh because that's what we see in most corporate environments, mostly Windows, and then for usually managerial people in the C-suite, we have Macintoshes. I'm not quite sure why that is. I guess it's easier to use. I go back and forth. I don't really find a huge difference between the two, unless you're doing something like this, making a video cast or a podcast. Then Macintosh, well, things tend to plug into it and work a little bit more than Windows. Windows has come a long way, but Macintosh, in general, things like that happen a lot easier and a lot better. So today, we're going to take a look at the experience of Windows MAM from the end user point of view. In the last video where we did the app enforced restrictions on a Macintosh, I showed you that end user experience. Let's go back now and kind of revisit Windows MAM, the configuration, and what the users can expect, because it's a little more involved than just the app enforced restrictions. Okay, everybody, so let's review our Windows MAM setup. On the screen now, we can see my Intune console, the portal, and I'm in the apps node, and I'm in the app protection policies part of that, and I can see I have 3 of them here, some mobile ones for Android and iOS, and here's my MAM for Windows. This is the thing that tells the applications how to behave, what to allow cut and copy and paste, to allow downloads, to allow printing. It's the same thing, the same idea as our mobile application management policies that we actually use on our mobile phones, iOS and Android. But for Windows MAM, it's brand new. It's very limited to one app, Edge. But let's see what it's going to do here. So I'll go under Properties. I see the data protection here. If I click on the Edit button, I can see that when I'm communicating with Office 365, and we'll see that it will be limited to that in the conditional access policies. These two things always go together. Mobile application management and conditional access policies. Even when we're using actual phones, those policies, there's always a combination of the two. So this one, the Intune mobile application management policies for Windows MAM tells our application that we're going to control, Microsoft Edge, in a work profile. That's the only one we can do right now. Hopefully that'll change in the future, but it can receive data from anything, but it can't send data, and we can't do cut, copy, and paste. So we're going to look to see if these settings change in the future, but notice we can't cut, copy, and paste for any destination. We can't get stuff into the clipboard, all right? And that is a little bit annoying. I would like to be able to copy stuff between Office 365 documents, but we can't do that right now. It's just a limitation of it. We can, however, save a document to a different Office 365 location if we wanted to. I could copy a document from Teams into my OneDrive, or vice versa. I could download an attachment that I received in my mailbox to my OneDrive if I want to, all within this mobile application management experience on an unmanaged device. So there's a lot of cool things that I can do that go beyond the older app enforced restrictions, but it's still in its new phases, so we still have limitations. So no destinations or sources. I am allowing printing of org data, and that's a personal choice. You can choose to do that or not. Then below, a couple of extra settings. Those of you familiar with other MAM policies, these will look familiar to you. Offline grace period for wiping and blocking access data, for how often we check in, what happens if there's a disabled account. I've chosen to tell Windows to wipe anything that it might have on it. It doesn't really keep much of anything, but it would just get rid of anything in the cache. All right, so let's take a look at the other half of this, conditional access policies. I filtered this just to show us the two that are pertinent to this scenario. One I've called MAM, Windows Require App Protection for browser access to Office 365 from unmanaged devices. These are all going to be conditions in my conditional access policy. I'm targeting Office 365 apps. I'm also targeting unmanaged devices. A couple of different ways to do that. We're going to look at the Microsoft preferred way. And they made a couple of changes since this came out, and I like the way that they recommend it, and I've kind of switched into using that. I'll explain it when we get in there in a second. And also a second policy that says that if you want to use regular desktop apps, then you have to be sitting at a managed device. In this case, I'm going to consider managed devices to be compliant devices. All right, let's see what the app protection policy or the browser conditional access that requires app protection policy looks like. So I have certain users included. Probably I'm going to include everybody, but exclude certain people in production, but not in my test. The one app that I'm pointing at in the cloud, Office 365, right? No network configurations. Two conditions. I'll click on the conditions. One is a device platform. This is Windows MAM. It doesn't work anywhere else, so I want to choose Windows. And then also a client app. Well, I am telling it that I only want these policies to apply when people are using a browser. So if you're using a browser, then you're going to be caught by this policy. So let's see what the policy is going to do if all those things are true. Well, it's going to grant you access with 3 controls. Some of these controls are limiting controls. So let's take a look at that. Pardon my picture in the way. I'll move that over to the right. So number one, I see require device to be marked as compliant, require an Entra hybrid join device, and then require app protection policy. Well, it doesn't sound right when you first look at that, but look down at the bottom. Require one of the selected controls. Here's where the magic happens. We could do this another way. In the first demo, I actually did it another way. I used the condition of device filters, and I filtered out the compliant devices. But what Microsoft has done, and I like this, is they have allowed us to choose these 3, create an OR condition, which is that requires only one of the selected controls. And what it will do is if a device comes in that's compliant, in this case, or even a hybrid join, and I'm going to uncheck hybrid join because let's say I don't have any hybrid join machines. I don't really care about that. So let's just stick with these 2. If a device is compliant, it doesn't require app protection policy, and those users will be able to do whatever they want. So it doesn't see the app protection policy first. It really sees the compliance one. So that's great. So this is what actually will allow fully compliant machines, managed machines. It'll allow me and my users to use those browsers unfettered and unrestricted by mobile application management policy. So that's great. If they're not compliant, well, then they do have to require app protection policy. That app protection policy that I created in Intune. That app protection policy only allows Edge. Edge is the only current browser that can communicate with Intune and that app protection policy. So if you're not using Edge, you don't get access. Chrome, Firefox, they're out. People have to use Microsoft Edge with a work profile, as we'll see in a second, in order to be able to connect when you have these MAM policies in place. Okay, so we got that in place. Let's just briefly look at the other policy here. The one for a full applications, for desktop applications. This one, same thing, users, Office 365. Conditions here, similar conditions. Device platform is Windows. But in this case, I've chosen client apps and I've eliminated any other kinds of apps, or I've actually included only the apps that I might use besides a browser. Now, I'm not using ActiveSync or other clients, but I just put them in here just in case. Some people use those still, so we might allow those. You can decide whether you want to uncheck those or not. But what I don't want checked is browser. So this is going to capture anyone trying to connect from a desktop app, the full version of Team, the full version of Outlook, the full version of Word or Office, any of the other Office apps. All right, so don't have anything else configured there. I have two controls. Again, one is require the device to be marked as compliant. And again, I still had this hybrid join device in there. I can uncheck that. So we can just go with compliance. If we're only working with compliance, we don't have any hybrid join devices, no sense in actually leaving that one checked. All right, so if you're on a compliant device, between these two policies, the first policy we looked at, the browser one, allows you to use Edge browser in its fullest, and actually you can use any browser you want, Chrome, Firefox, because you're not limited to that app protection policy experience. This policy then also allows the full desktop apps if your device is compliant. So if your device is compliant, then you're allowed to do whatever you want with the combination of those two policies, these two policies. All right, so let's take a look now at what happens with the user's experience. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to switch over to my remote desktop experience. I think this is the one I want. Yeah, that looks good. Let me move my picture over to the right again. All right, so let's wrap our brains around what we're seeing here. This is a Hyper-V environment. And I have a server in here that's a domain controller, a couple other ones, but I have workstations. And the workstations are really the ones we're interested in. There's a workstation here called Win11A registered BYOD. That just reminds me that that's my unmanaged device. It's not Entra joined. It's not hybrid joined. It's Entra registered. That means someone has logged on to the device itself with either a local account or a Microsoft personal account, right? Or some other way. Those are usually the two main things you're going to use. You're pretty much limited to that, although it could be a domain account, but we'll leave that for later. So they've logged on as a local account, and then they're connecting to their Office 365 through a browser. And when you do that, you'll get a dialog box that comes up asking you if you want to register your device. Also, you're asked if you want to enroll with Intune. Doesn't quite look like that. I wish it actually said that very clearly, but those of you who've seen it know what I'm talking about. We're going to see it in a second as well. So I just want to show you here that I don't have anything set up on this machine. I see add a work or school account. Well, if I'd already done this and set this user up, I would see someone in there. I would see a name in there. I don't see anything in there now. So I'm going to get something in there in a second. Now I could connect ahead of time, but not really necessary. What I'm going to do is come straight into the browser and go to office.com. All right, and I'm just going to try and sign in as one of my users, MIG user 1. See what happens when we don't have anything set up. All right. So now it tells me, hey, you have to sign in with your work account. What does that mean? Well, it goes on to explain it a little bit better right below that. You have to sign into an Edge browser profile, a work profile. Now, I could create that ahead of time by clicking on this little guy up here and signing in. But this workflow should walk me through that. Sometimes it's a little glitchy, so you may have to walk people through this. There's some caveats in here as well. If someone's already created a work profile or they already have some account under settings, Access Worker School, it might not work. And that's another issue with Windows MAM. You may have to do a little more training on your help desk to help people through this. They want to look at a couple of places if things aren't working right. So we'll come back to that. So I'm going to click on Switch Edge Profile. Now it says, all right, well, continue with your work or school account. To access this page, create a profile with your work or school account. Well, that sounds great. I see that here's my account name here. I click on Sign in to sync data. That's what I will do. It's creating an Edge work profile for me, okay? And it shows me this screen. Everybody's familiar with this screen. This screen is a problem with Windows MAM. It's a problem because people will screw up and choose the wrong thing, all right? So I don't just want to quickly click on OK. That's a mistake. I got to uncheck something first. I have to uncheck the allow my organization to manage my device. That's Intune enrollment. I don't want these devices enrolling with MDM, enrollment with Intune, and that's what that checkbox is for. I don't want that. If that happens, they could become compliant. Now my MAM is out the window. Now people with their personal devices can download information onto those personal devices because they're compliant. And that's the only check that we're looking at. They can download information, they could take it with them, and I can't stop them. I could wipe the device once they're in Intune. I can do stuff like that, but it becomes a problem. I don't want to really manage those personal devices inside of Intune because things could go out the door. I might forget about it. You know, if someone quits, I could be like, okay, well, we're going to wipe your device. I see your work device right here. We'll wipe that. What about the other device? Maybe I miss it. Okay. So we got to make sure that people uncheck that. Now, a good thing to do is to prevent users from enrolling personal devices with Intune, enrolling personal Windows devices. At the end of the video, I'll put a reminder to myself. I'll show you where we can go ahead and do that, and we can prevent that. But again, if they leave that checked, then they're going to get a weird error. They're going to call the help desk anyway. Things aren't going to work right. So this is kind of an issue. I wish Microsoft would change this and make this a little more intuitive, a little easier. Uncheck it by default, but they didn't. All right. I don't want to choose no sign into this app only because that won't register this device in Entra. The OK button registers this device in Entra. The checkbox enrolls it with Intune. Remember, there's always two things here. There's two databases. There's Entra, that's used for authentication, authorization, and then there's Intune, that's used for management. They talk a little bit. Intune can tell Entra which devices are compliant and which devices are not compliant because Intune's in charge of that. And Intune just copies that up to Entra, and that's how Entra becomes aware of compliance, and then Entra can use that compliance in conditional access policies, and that's exactly how it works. So personal devices, they should not be able to report compliance. They should not become compliant. They cannot report to Entra that they're compliant, and that's why they're forced into that MAM experience. All right, so I'm going to click on OK. So we can see it's registering the device with my company. Yeah, I wish it said Entra. It doesn't, but that's what it's doing. It's registering it with Entra. It is not enrolling it with Intune. I'm all set. That's great. Well, I'm not quite all set. Let's give it a second to finish up here. Now I see this, let's set up your profile to access org resources. This is finishing setting up the Edge profile. There's two things that happen here. Number one, I've registered this device with Entra. If I go back into that Access Worker School where we jumped in, the first thing we saw, if I go back there, I'm going to see that this device has registered. I'm going to see MIG user 1 has now connected a device to Entra. That's the first thing. It's already done that. The second thing is it has to finish setting up this work profile, see if there's any app protection policies if it requires it, and get that information down to Edge, because Edge has to be informed of what it's allowed to do and what it's not allowed to do. Now, I've been talking for quite a while now, and I still see this thing spinning. You're going to see that. It takes a while. Be patient. Tell people to be patient, users to be patient. When you write out your documentation, if you want to send it out to users, make sure you put that in big bold. Be patient. Don't click on cancel. Wait. Wait a minute. Wait 2 minutes. The continue button will show up, and there it is. So I'm going to click on continue. Again, wait a little bit. Tick tock, tick tock. All right, now I'm in Office. We'll come back here in a second. Let me see. First, before I come back, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to click on Teams to start up Teams in the browser. And I'm going to click on Outlook to start up Outlook in the browser. While those two are starting, I'm going to go back to the Settings app. And now I see something I didn't see before. I see MIG User 1 here as an account, connected account. That means that MIG User 1, the account that I've signed in as, has registered this device in Entra, and now it's connected. I should only ever see one account in here. There's a problem if you have more than one account in here. The problem is Windows MAM won't work for one of those accounts. It might not work for either one of those accounts, but for sure, it's not going to work for one of them. So people cannot have more than one account in here. Now, this is a problem for MSPs, such as myself. A lot of times that people I work with, they have accounts in different tenants for testing, for doing different stuff like that. If you do have that, you're going to get an error, or you have multiple accounts in your own tenant. Doesn't really matter. MAM will not work correctly if you have more than one account. And it has to do with the certificate that's in the personal certificate store. Only one certificate's going to get sent in, and it only is going to be attached to one of those profiles and one of those users, and it's random, So you might see a MIG User 1 might have registered it. I might have another user come in and also register their device. That user may work just fine, and all of a sudden MIG User 1 doesn't work fine. So it's a very, very big problem if you have more than one of these set up. All right. Having said that, and so how would you solve that? Get rid of them all, start over again. Don't just get rid of one of them. You can try that, but I'll tell you right now, it'll probably fail. You want to get rid of all of these accounts, get rid of all of the Edge profiles that you're using, and start over. Just the way it is right now. Hopefully Microsoft will improve on this experience, but that is a little bit of a gotcha. All right, I'm going to minimize that, get back to our Outlook here. Here I have a user, one of my compatriots, MIG User 3, has sent me a budget document. You might also notice I have some labeling in here. It's got nothing to do with what we're doing, just something that we have in my tenant, a retention policy. You might have some of that, doesn't really matter. I'm going to open up this document and take a look at it in the browser. So I open it up in the browser. We'll see how this works. Well, it looks just fine. This is a report. That's what's in it. So I'm going to highlight the word report and choose copy. I can't do it. Right? Remember in the policy, I said don't allow cut copy and paste to anywhere. It means anywhere. I can't even copy it to paste it somewhere else in the document. So it's an issue. Hopefully Microsoft will figure that out. But for right now, you just can't put stuff into the clipboard. All right. Let's do, let's see here. I'll do a save as, and I'll try and download a copy. Download a copy. Yes. All right. Same thing. My organization prevents me from downloading. A different prompt. So it's working as expected. Let me close that up. And I'll close that up. I'm going to get back to Outlook here. There's plenty of ways that I can do things here. But what I'm going to do is go to here and choose download. I'll do that again. I get the same thing, right? All right. Let's see if I can open it up in a desktop app. So I see Microsoft Word starting. I would actually have to sign in to Word, okay, which I will attempt to do. Looks like a different user. See if I can get the other user in here. Username and password, can't do it. Okay? This is the prompt you will get if you attempt to open up a FAT client, a Win32 client, desktop client, and access an Office 365 resource. Device must comply with your organization's compliance requirements. Not super descriptive again, but this is the error that you'll get. All right, fair enough. Let's try and get rid of Word. All right. So, but what I could do is I could download this to, or not download it, but upload it to OneDrive if I wanted to. Okay? Or I could view it in OneDrive somewhere in here. Let's click on, clicking on the wrong stuff. Or I could move it up to a SharePoint site if I wanted to. Now I'm just madly clicking. All right, let me get away from that. Let's go to a different example. Teams. Teams is SharePoint, right? Doesn't matter. I got this same site available in SharePoint as I have in Teams. I have a Project X site /team where I have a couple of documents. Here's a budget document. I'll click on that, just so we can see the same experience here. Let's click on one of these cells, right click on one of them, and choose copy. Same thing, I can't copy content, can't download content. So if the content's in Office 365, I'm not going to be able to get to it. And this is going to count even if I use something like, what's a good one? Well, Planner. I don't know if I have a plan in here, but let's go take a look at Planner. Hey, I got a party plan. Who doesn't need a party plan? All right, so let's copy some stuff out of the party plan. Again, I get an error. So this is pretty robust. And it does give me some feedback as a user, which is good. So this person can do their work. They can edit documents. I can edit documents, modify them, save them. It's not a read-only experience. I just can't copy from them. I can't download them to my computer. Let's switch over to a machine that is compliant. I have a different machine. This one's called Win10 Entra Joined. It's an Entra Joined machine. So same user, make user 1. I've already logged in as make user 1. And now I'm getting into Office. I'll sign into the work profile here. Same thing I did before. I'm just trying to save some time here. We'll sign into Office. Get rid of the other tabs. All right, and we'll take a look at the same thing. I'll go to Teams, go to Outlook. In Outlook, I'll go to the same email that MigUser had sent to me. There's a little attachment report there. And I'll see if I can't download that. No problem. Downloaded it, right? Let's open it up. And copy some stuff. No problem. I just copied that. I can go over to Notepad, paste it there, open up a different document in Word, and paste it there. Heck, I can go to Excel, paste it there. I'll go into the actual Excel and paste it there. So, but you can tell right away that I'm not impeded here in any way because this machine is compliant. So none of those conditional access policies really apply to it. It's not going to limit me from doing anything. All right. So not only did I copy from the browser, but I can also paste. Oops, I think I hit escape in a regular browser or in a regular application. All right. And I can go to Teams. I can sign into Teams. I'm going to see the same thing in there. No problem. Go to Teams. This is the actual full Teams app. Go to Project X. Go to Files. I'll see my files there. So I have a full experience here. And I'll just open up this file directly in the app. Something I can't do in mobile application protection. So I see my old document in there. Give it a couple of seconds. And the other one will open up. And there it is. All right. So that's a good experience for everybody. You're on a managed device. You can do whatever you want, within reason, but we're not limiting you in Office 365 in terms of what you can do to documents, copy, paste, download. I fully manage this machine, so I can wipe it from Intune if I want to, or whatever else we want to. So fully managed devices, we're not too worried about. They're already in Intune. We already have the ability to wipe them the second they get into Intune, and we can configure them any way that we want. All right, so that pretty much does it. Again, the caveats here: users have to have a work profile in Edge. They have to register their device in Entra. Both of those things can happen through a flow. If they haven't registered their device yet, if they don't have an Edge profile for that account yet, then the flow will take care of that. If they do have an Edge profile, or if they do already have their machine registered in Access Worker School, or if they have two accounts under Access Worker School, you will probably have to back out of all of that and start over again. So different users, we're going to have different walkthroughs for. So we'll have to train the help desk a little bit more on this, but it's a great start. Microsoft's going to improve on this, and they will definitely move this to other applications. Outlook, Teams, they're kind of beginning to move in that direction already, making them more web-like, as we've seen in the past year, the past few months. All right, everybody, that's pretty much it. Let's wrap things up. So, as we've seen, the Edge experience is pretty good for unmanaged devices. I like it. I like it more than the older app-enforced restrictions. But if you have a big user base that has multiple accounts on Access Worker School for whatever reason, they have profiles set up, you may try it out and decide, wow, I got 500 users here. I'm going to have to walk everybody through, getting these Edge profiles correct, getting rid of stuff, putting stuff back in. It might be a bit much. App-enforced restrictions doesn't have any of those problems, but it is less configurable. It is less and more restrictive at the same time. It's more of a read-only experience. So you can do a lot with it, but it's limited and also in the apps in the cloud that it's available to use. A subset of Office 365, mostly SharePoint and Exchange. So I do like the Windows MAM. I think everybody should start using it. We need to keep data off of personal devices. Users are walking out the door after leaving the company, and they're taking all of their stuff with them. We're already preventing that with mobile MAM, and most companies do that. All of our customers, my customers, are doing that. We need to move that into Windows as soon as we can and start limiting the data that's leaking out from there. And then, of course, we want to get into DLP policies, labeling, the whole 9 yards in purview. For Macintoshes, app-enforced restrictions are still the way to go. Another option for Macintosh, of course, is to actually enroll those with Intune. Why do I say enroll Macintosh, even if they're users' devices? Well, there's probably only a few of those users. They're probably C-suite or executives, and we can kind of treat those a little bit differently. All right, everybody, that's it for this episode. The next episode, we'll probably keep along these lines and talk about more data loss, DLP policies, labeling. We've done a little bit of that in the past, but there's some new stuff we want to take a look at. So until then, stay safe out there.